What day is it? I'm not doing these every day anymore, so I have to sort of keep track, keep better track of what day it is. This is the vlog for February 25th, 2019. The job search is ongoing. So far, nothing yet. I decided to look at some different options today, including one which was to become a Lyft driver. Now, here's the silly thing, is that it's technically incredibly easy to start driving for Lyft. I think this window needs to be drawn because it's affecting the white balance. There we go. Do this. It's apparently pretty easy to become a Lyft driver if you meet the criteria, and the criteria are pretty simple, and yet I've still managed to fail them. What they're looking for is a driver with a driver's license who has a car with 4 doors and 5 seatbelts, at least, that is less than 10 years old. My little Subaru, which has 70,000 miles on it, is 12 years old this February. So that one thing just completely takes me out of the running for doing that. Except they do have a system. This is funny. They have a system in which you can rent a car to drive as a Lyft driver. The rental fee starts at $219 a week, which is essentially just actually renting a car. They have a program by the number of drives that you do can actually buy back the fee that you pay, the rental fee, up to about, I want to say 90% of the total rental fee. But that's after doing more than 100 Lyft drives in a week. And it just, and it's going to take a deposit. I haven't got a lot of money to put into it right now. So that basically, I'm pretty much taking that off the table. Honestly, I think at this point, if I had a job, it would be cheaper to finance a new car just to do this job than to actually rent per week, because I bet I could get a car for something more like $170 a month. And I don't need a new car. I've got very few miles on the one I have, and it's only 12 years old. It runs perfectly fine. It's had a couple factory recalls, and all the problems we've ever had with it have been taken care of, but it doesn't meet the criteria for this. So, the other option I actually thought of looking into is Grubhub, or some other food delivery thing. Now, this is a little more professional, which is probably for the best. I'd have to be wearing a uniform, which is, a lot of the jobs I've been looking at lately would be requiring a uniform. But I don't have to worry about keeping a person or people in the car happy for any given time. I can just pick up the food, take it to the place that order it, drop it off, and be done. And, my car would end up smelling like a lot of food. But I've always sort of had this idea. I had a friend in college who did pizza delivery. He loved it. It was one of his favorite jobs of all time. And unfortunately, his problem was that he slept in past the time he was supposed to report to work twice. And they had a very serious tardy policy. And I definitely don't have any kind of problem, 13 years of working, and I think I overslept my alarm 3 times and still was never late because of it. So I could definitely do a job like that, I think. I just, a little bit of training and probably a food handler's license. I'm not sure how it works for delivery guys, since I'm not preparing the food. But, I need something right now. Anything just to pay some bills. And I discussed this with my dad, and he was a little concerned because he wants me to find something that I can make a career out of. I'm scared that at this point in my life, I'm going to have to go back to school to get a career in this job market. All these game companies are having a big round of layoffs, and a couple of the companies that I was thinking of applying for don't have the employees to spare anymore. Like I looked at Bungie today, and they had no positions open in testing whatsoever. They had one or two positions in development and engineering, and ArenaNet, which I have applied for in the past, is also announcing a round of layoffs. And of course, this is the season for it. It must be said that the financial fiscal year starts on April 1st. And because of that, you usually see a lot of reorganization. You see changes in profit, frameworks and scales. You see layoffs. Sometimes you see a lot of big hires, depending on the field or industry, whatever you want to call it. But that stuff all needs to happen before April 1st so that it can take effect for the new fiscal year. And so I remember 6 years ago, the Nintendo product testing department brought everybody in March and said, hey, starting on April 1st, we're not going to do 40-hour weeks anymore. We're going to do 36.25-hour weeks. And it was just to cut costs. They said it was to facilitate better communication with offices in Japan, but they could do that by just changing the shift schedule, not actually lowering hours. It was to save money. And sadly, they actually did go back to 40-hour weeks right before I was, let go. So I think I might have mentioned that before. Everything was looking up, and then I just basically made an ass of myself. It's a very expensive and terrible way to learn a lesson, but it's definitely a lesson I've learned and taken to heart. So, still, all hope is not lost, and I'm going to give the Grubhub a very close look tomorrow. I'm going to see if there's somebody I can talk to. I assume I need to go somewhere to pick up my uniform if I do get a job there. I don't know if they have offices per se, or if there's some sort of staffing agency that outsources to Grubhub. We'll see. This is all what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. And I must say, the weather today was fantastic. It was bright and sunny through most of the day. Pretty cold. There was a definite cold breeze, but that's one of the reasons I decided to do a vlog today. Is I've been in kind of a funk. This has all been very sort of frustrating and more than a little depressing, but I feel better today. Things are literally brighter out, so I'm feeling brighter too. So never forget, I'm Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.